Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. Quick warning and info before we begin. In today's first story there is mention of child abuse, so if that is a topic that makes you uncomfortable, you might want to skip the story. And also, in today's video there are two stories and both of them have updates. Now let's get started. This post is from the subreddit Relationships and it's by user Throwaway and some numbers. My female 20 boyfriend, male 17's sister, female 14, hit my baby brother, male 1, while babysitting him for my parents. Her parents refuse to acknowledge this and won't discipline her. Throwaway because I'm fairly certain she browses Reddit and knows my real account. So, yesterday, my parents wanted to go on a date night because they both had the day off from work and didn't have anyone to leave the baby with, since I'm busy with college and my new apartment. My boyfriend and I are moving in together as soon as he turns 18 in 2 weeks. My boyfriend, Nate, chimed in and said that his sister has been wanting to earn her own money for a while now and thought that this would be the perfect opportunity for her since it was just babysitting, nothing huge. Just to note that he wouldn't have ever suggested it to her if he thought she would harm my brother in any way at all. So my parents accepted because they know her and my boyfriend since they were little, and so they trusted her. She never showed any signs of being this crazy before. Well, I did tell my parents that I would be calling Natalie, not a real name, every once in a while to see how things were going, and they seemed to be going great until late at night at around 11 p.m. when I called and immediately heard my baby brother crying very loudly. I asked Natalie what was happening and she seemed very upset too, like at the brink of tearing up, so I pushed her more and kept asking what the F was going on. She hung up on me and didn't pick up my calls afterward, and that's when I decided that I should go to my parents' house with Nate, since he was worried too once I told him about it. When we got there, she got scared. Apparently she wasn't expecting me to have a key to the house. What the F, it's my parents' house. And she started crying, telling us how sorry she was and she didn't know what to do because my brother started throwing a tantrum earlier and she couldn't calm him down, so she hit him. She hit my baby brother hard enough that he had marks all over his back and arms. I was fuming. I was seriously about to come on to her and punch her or something, but my boyfriend stopped me and told me that I could get in trouble for hitting a minor even though he was obviously very upset with her too. He was about to cry from the guilt of having suggested her to my parents. I took my brother with me to my apartment and Nate took Natalie home and explained what happened to his parents. They didn't even believe it at first, even though she was there crying for Nate not to tell them everything that happened. I seriously didn't expect them to be like this. They were very strict with Nate when he was younger, but apparently they're nothing like that to her. Nate told me that all they seemed to be worried about was their friendship with my parents and didn't even ground her for what she did. I don't know what to do, Reddit. For what it's worth, Nate is not on their side and feels like crap because of this, so please don't suggest leaving him, it's not his fault. I haven't told my parents what happened yet. I'm afraid of what they do and I don't want to cause any drama, but I also don't want to leave things like this. Oof. OP, your brother has been hit repeatedly and very hard. That baby has marks on the back and arms as you said. So the first thing that you should have done is taken your brother to the ER to have him get checked out, and then you call your parents while at the hospital or on your way to the hospital. And sure, you might be afraid of what your parents would do, but hey, it's their baby. It's not your decision to make what they can or cannot do. Now, regarding Natalie and her parents, well, you can forget about the friendship because that's not gonna hold up anymore. And I don't care for their parenting style. If they don't want to discipline Natalie, fine, it's on them. But your parents should still press charges. Call the police. And I would also call CPS because Natalie learned abuse from somewhere, or she's got anger issues because something's going on in that house. And regardless of what it is, I highly doubt there's a positive environment in that household. Honestly, I do hope your parents unleash hell on them, and that whatever is going on with Natalie will be addressed properly. I mean, we're talking about a 14-year-old teenager. She should know better than to hit a baby. And what do you guys think about what's going on? What would you have done if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Greenso says, tell your parents they'll never have her babysit again, and I'm sure they'll have some strong words to rightfully say to her parents. And Opie responds, "I'll see my parents in 2 hours from now, and I know you're right, but what if they decide to go over there? My mom would literally slap her unless restrained, and I'm not even sure what my father would do. I effing hate her right now and wish she would just go away. I deleted them all from all social media and told my boyfriend I didn't want them near me ever again, but I know I'm not thinking straight right now. I'm afraid of saying something I might regret down the line. F it, I'm telling my parents when I see them, but I sure as hell don't want to be with them when they confront her about this. I know it's going to get ugly and I don't want to see any of that." Syncopacetic says, "That baby needs the hospital. If she hit him that badly, she could have shaken him as well. Not to mention something could be internally damaged or broken." Benzoma says, "Take pictures of the marks. Talk to your parents. Don't go see her. Don't let them go see her. Tell your parents to call the police. Be prepared for the hospital to call the police. I would expect they are required to at signs of abuse. Be prepared for your boyfriend's family to lie like crazy. Make sure you save all text messages, emails, and messages. Beating a 1-year-old baby to the point of causing marks is a serious sick thing to do. None of this is your or your boyfriend's fault. If his family doesn't acknowledge that their daughter has committed a serious crime, then he'll have some difficult decisions to make." Additional information from Opie's comments. "I just feel so bad now. How can any sane person do that? At 14, you know better. But you are all right. I guess I'm just trying to convince myself that I shouldn't make things worse. Nate says she did something awful and he will support me, but at the same time, he thinks she shouldn't have to have a criminal record already since she's just 14 years old. He thinks it should be sorted out between our families only, and I know how it sounds, but he's not putting his sister first." He confronted his parents. They were angry because he was not on their side. They kept texting him that his family is more important and he's an overall emotional mess, but he's still there for me. Anyway, when my parents know about this, they are gonna get the cops called on them when they get to Natalie's house. The thing is that my family on my dad's side tends to sort things out with violence instead, and I'm worried about someone sending someone else to the hospital or the cops being called. Well, the community was really clear. Opie, tell your parents, call the cops, take your baby brother to the hospital. And I gotta say, I don't know how I feel about the boyfriend. I mean, sure, he's there supporting Opie, but at the same time, he's advocating for the perpetrator, the one that actually hit the baby. I understand that there may be bigger things at play here, but she should know that what she did was wrong and she should face some consequences. Anyways, it's time to move on to the update to see what happened next and how the story ends, but of course before that, here's another one of my playlists for you to enjoy after this video. Now let's move on with that update. I called my parents when we got to the hospital and told them everything that happened. I didn't call them on the way there because I wanted to make sure they arrive once he was already in care so they wouldn't hold him and make his wounds hurt even more. He was very fuzzy on the way there, and when I went to grab him to put him in the car seat, I accidentally touched one of the bruises and he screamed bloody murder at me. I gave him his bottle and stayed with him in the back seat trying to distract him while my boyfriend drove us there. It was only a 20-minute ride, thankfully, since my brother isn't fond of car rides. Once there, I explained to a receptionist what had happened and she immediately contacted a doctor from the ER who came and took my brother with him and another pediatrician. I was told I could come in with him or stay outside with Nate, but I decided to go once I called my parents. The restaurant was somewhat close to the hospital, so they got there very fast and were, of course, upset over what had happened and didn't understand anything at first. It was hard telling them that Natalie had hurt him, and I almost teared up while telling them, but Nate comforted me and helped me explain things to them. My dad cried and my mom was fuming. She saw my brother and talked to him a little bit, but she left like 15 minutes after to go to Natalie's house without my father, who stayed with us to reassure us that we did the right thing by taking him to the hospital. Thankfully, the cops were not called on my mom as she only went there and blew up at literally everyone, but did not escalate it, even though I'm sure she wanted to. CPS was called though, and a lady came over to make sure we weren't the ones that harmed my brother nor my parents, and it was somewhat easy to prove that it was Natalie the one that was with him after they investigated and even went to the restaurant my parents were at to verify they were telling the truth. Besides, Natalie admitted that she did it when they went to her house and questioned her. She said, "Yes, it was me." but apparently said something along the lines of, "I was nervous and didn't know what to do. Please don't take me away." My mother was there and she heard everything. Natalie's parents were disgusted that Nate allowed this to happen to his family and told him that he was getting kicked out of their house when he turns 18 and that they wouldn't be paying for anything once he got into college. That doesn't really matter because he's going to live with me anyways, and he already has a job that will at least cover his part of the rent and some supplies. I will be paying for whatever else he needs as I earn more. He was, of course, devastated that his parents would just throw him out like that, so he just grabbed his stuff and took them to my apartment. He didn't want to wait until he was 18. His father spit on him when he was walking out the door and told him good riddance. Classy. It seems like Natalie will have to attend some kind of therapy and anger management classes 3 times a week, which her parents are not okay with. I don't know if they'll do it, but from my understanding, they'll have to if they don't want to have CPS bug them constantly. A social worker will come and make sure Natalie's attending those things, and will be talking to Nate today to see how his parents raised them, just to make sure they didn't force her to do what she did or abuse her themselves. As for my brother, he is okay. There was no blow to the head, and I don't know what they did to find out, but they told my dad that he was not shaken, just slapped and hit with a foreign object. What? On his legs and arms. My dad was abused growing up, so this was incredibly hard on him. He could barely talk and was blaming himself for allowing his son to be hurt, even though the doctors told him it wasn't his fault and that he couldn't have known this would happen. That seemed very personal to me for a doctor to say, but I'll take it. It made my father feel a tiny bit better to have a medical professional tell him it wasn't on him. I thought my dad was going to get so mad he would go beat up Nate's dad or something because that's how I've known him to be all my life. But he was just a mess. I think it didn't even occur to him to do that. Mom and Dad later told Nate's parents never to call them again and never to set foot on their house again or there would be trouble. But that Nate was still welcome and that they considered him family. Smiley face. He was really happy to hear that since he was worried that not only his own parents would kick him out, but mine too. He got a hug from my dad and thanked him for not being mad at him. And my dad said that it was true, that it wasn't anyone's fault except for Natalie's. I don't know what Nate's gonna do about her though. She's his only sister and he loves her, so he might stick around and see her from time to time, but he's incredibly upset still, and told me that if his parents won't take her to therapy, that he doubts she'll get better. Hopefully, she recognizes her mistakes and grows to become a better person, or else she won't be able to see her future nephews or nieces. For now, it seems that she and Nate's parents blocked us all from social media. Whatever, F them. And finally, I want to say thank you to everyone. Smiley face. Most of you were very supportive and helped me realize that I had to take him to a doctor soon. I was such a mess that it didn't occur to me until I read it. I was wrong not to take him sooner, but in the end, he only has bruises and a smallish cut on his shoulder. And I'll take that any day over shaken baby syndrome. As for the people that told me my boyfriend was an a-hole or just crappy, go F yourselves. Smiley face. Anyone would be lucky to have someone like Nate by their side, but if you ever did, I'm sure you'd scared them away with all your negativity anyway. Well, OP, I can't say it's a happy ending because even though you're happy that your brother's not shaken, well, he still got beat up and I'm angry about that. And if it would have been my baby instead of your brother, charges would have been pressed. And not just that, but I would also do CPS follow-up. I would not let this go at all. But of course, that's your parents' decision. So all I've got left to say is, here's wishing that your brother recovers properly. All the best to all of you in the future and take care. Thanks for sharing. And now let's move on to the next post that, like I said in the beginning, also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Relationship Advice, and it's by user BeardProblems23. I, 28, hate my boyfriend's 28 male beard. We've been together for 10 years and I love him a lot. I'm sure we're gonna get married someday and have kids together. He always had a bit of a beard, which I loved. I always found him very attractive. However, about 6 months ago, he started to grow out his beard. Some people call it a hipster beard. The difference is that my boyfriend doesn't groom his beard at all, and it looks like a mess. Whenever he eats, small pieces of food stick to his beard. Whenever it's hot outside, small droplets of sweat linger on his beard. Whenever we have sex, I feel his beard rubbing on me and it feels weird. And afterward, I have beard hair all over me. I just hate it. I've tried talking to him about at least grooming his beard. I'm not even talking about cutting it off because apparently he loves it so much. I bought some grooming accessories for him, scissors, a small comb, but he doesn't use it. I've told him about this fancy hipster barber shop, but he just laughed and said, "Real man don't need that." He also keeps insisting that I'm gonna learn to love his beard someday, but it just gets more and more disgusting. I've asked his friends and family what they think about the beard, but they all agree that the beard is great. I can't be the only one noticing the food getting caught up in his beard. Ugh, what do? I feel like I find him less and less attractive. I'm even starting to avoid having sex with him, and it freaks me out. Please help. Well, OP, you've tried dropping hints. Nobody's picking them up. You've talked to friends and family. Apparently they think the beard's great, so they're not gonna say a thing. I guess the only thing that's left in your toolbox is be honest and tell him how you feel. I mean, on your post, you told us everything that you offered him, but you never once told us that you actually told him that you don't like his beard. Of course, it's not an easy conversation to have. Imagine if he would say something that he doesn't like about your body. So I would still be very cautious about how to go about it, but you need to address it or else you're just gonna get frustrated, you're gonna stop having sex, and then a lot of problems are gonna happen. And if your relationship is so fragile after 10 years that if you say a comment like, you know what, I really don't like your beard, and that's a deal breaker, well then I would say that hints to bigger problems than just the beard. And what do you guys think about OP's problem? What would you do if you were in her shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Hugged at Gunpoint says, tell him that it's been 6 months and you haven't gotten any fonder of his beard, that it's ruining sex for you and still grosses you out regularly. Fitzvilliger says, okay, you've tried all the polite ways, so now it's time to be blunt. Quote, your beard is gross. Food gets caught in it, you don't bother taking care of it, and the last thing I want to do when you have stinky bits of old food caught in your uncombed beard is kiss you or have sex with you. If you want to be intimate with me, you need to start paying more attention to your hygiene. Yeah, he'll have himself a little sulk fest, but you've tried everything more polite, and he isn't listening. You're not asking him to cut it off, you're asking him to keep his damn face clean. MSB132 says, this is a very important issue if it's causing you to lose attraction to him. You need to express to him that this is causing you to lose attraction to him and give him 3 options. 1. He grooms his beard more. 2. He shaves his beard. 3. You distance yourself from him for a while to evaluate the relationship. And Pretty Princess 90 says, my 6'2" tall, 250-pound construction worker of a husband is about as manly as it gets. He grooms his effing beard. He goes to a proper barber monthly to get things cleaned up and trimmed. At home, he trims his beard, applies product, keeps it looking nice. Using real man as an excuse is freaking BS. You know what a real man does? Listen to his partner and take what they are saying into consideration without dismissing their feelings. Agreed, that's what a real partner should do, men or women. Stop having sex with him. You aren't using sex as a weapon when you are genuinely repulsed by his appearance, and when he asks why, flat out tell him, I told you the beard grosses me out. You won't shave it, you won't take care of it, so I'm not going to force myself to have sex with you when I'm not attracted to this. Then leave it at that. Okay, well, the community was telling OP to tell her boyfriend about how she's grossed out by the beard and to also withhold sex. I agree with the first part, but not so much with the second unless the first part has already been done. Unless OP has already told them that she's grossed out by the beard, then yeah. Anyways, let's now move on to the update to see how this story ends. So I did what some people suggested and told him. I couldn't bring myself to have sex with him unless he started grooming his beard because I was so disgusted by it. He kind of laughed it off, but after a week I guess he realized I was serious. So one day we met for dinner after work and he got there clean shaven and with a bouquet of roses. During dinner he asked me if I honestly didn't remember. I had no idea what he was talking about. That's when he told me that 6 or 7 years ago when we celebrated Christmas with my family and my grandfather was asking when the 2 of us would finally get married, my boyfriend said he would get married when his beard was as long as my grandfather's, who has somewhat of a Santa Claus beard. For a few months after that incident, it was like a running joke between the two of us. Whenever he didn't shave for a few days, I told him to watch out or he would have to marry me. Apparently, that was when he decided he would grow out his beard before proposing. Only, he thought it would be too obvious and I would know what was coming, and I completely forgot about the whole situation, and now I feel kind of bad about forgetting the whole joke between us. He said when I told him the beard was disgusting, he thought I was just joking around because I wanted to know if he would really go through with growing it out grandfather style. Our friends and families were all in on it, and that's why they kept saying the beard was great. So, long story short, the beard is gone and we are engaged. I guess this might seem a bit childish to a lot of people, but it made my grandfather happy, and I think the original idea was kind of sweet, even though the beard wasn't. Well, that was an unexpected turn of events and a happy update. Thank you, OP. Congratulations on your engagement, and here's wishing you both the best in the future. Take care and thank you for sharing. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.